Today we're taking a walking tour of two historical neighborhoods, the Western Addition and Haight Ashbury, located in the central portion of the city immediately to the west of downtown. Both became thriving music districts in the 60s, Western Addition for jazz and Haight Ashbury for classic rock. But while the Western Addition was remade into trendy retail neighborhoods, the Haight has fought to hold on to its storied past, and each gives you a little taste of what makes San Francisco so unique. The entire route is going to take between 2 and 3 miles, depending on how much of the shopping streets you want to cover, but we make a lot of stops, so it really doesn't feel that far. We're going to start out in the Fillmore District, a really cute neighborhood between Lower Pack Heights, Nob Hill, and north of Japantown. It's got a pretty big shopping area, which is very popular with the locals. At one point, this was heavily populated by Japanese Americans until the Japanese internment in World War II, after which it was taken over by a large African American community, and they called it the Western Addition, which some old schoolers still refer to it to this day. They opened all of these famous jazz clubs, and for a while it was a pretty hip happening place. Till it got old and unpopular, and the rents became very cheap, and then it became gentrified. And depending on who you talk to, that could be a good thing or a bad thing. Okay, we're gonna start here at Clay Street and Fillmore Street and walk south down Fillmore. This next half mile is just chock full of trendy restaurants and cute boutiques. And it's a pretty nice mix between the smaller independent boutiques and the larger name brand chain stores. Keep in mind though that most open midday, so if you arrive here too early in the morning, window shopping may be your only option. All right, before I get too far, I need to put a little something in my belly. So I'm gonna stop off here at Zeene on Fillmore for a quick brekkie. They've got a delicious assortment of fancy toasts and fresh juices, and if you want something a little bit more substantial, they've got sandwiches and salads too. Let's go inside and order at the counter. So I won't be doing a full review on this place today, but check out this yummy looking avocado toast. Their in-house sourdough bread is toasted and topped with mashed avocados, a soft-boiled egg, pickled jalapenos and shallots, and fresh chives. This was about $9. I will be including them in a future Best Fancy Toast of San Francisco, so check up here for a link in the future. By the way, if you don't catch Jane's here, you'll get a second chance at it at Jane the Bakery, which is located down on Geary and Steiner. That's their bakery location, but you can still get fabulous toasts there. Other great eateries on Fillmore include Woodhouse Fish Company for seafood, The Grove for casual fare, Pizza Delfina, Dosa for upscale South Indian cuisine, and the highly vaunted State Bird Provision, which does contemporary American, but Chinese dim sum style with little bites rolled around in carts. When you get to Geary here, look to your left and you'll see Japantown about a block or two down. While we're not gonna stop and explore it today, you can take an hour or two here to get something to eat, do a little shopping. They've got some really kawaii tchotchkes and samurai swords. We're gonna make a right on Geary heading west and go down a block till you see Jane the Bakery, and then we're gonna make a left down Steiner and continue down Steiner heading south until you hit Alamo Square Park. This cute neighborhood in the Western Addition is solidly working class and is probably one of the last bastions of affordable housing left here in the city. It's not trendy yet and is very quiet and tends to go under the radar. Once you cross over Golden Gate Avenue, you're going to be entering the neighborhood of Alamo Square Park. Make sure you look up at all the really beautiful historic Victorians around here. So technically this neighborhood is still part of the Western Addition, but depending on who you talk to, they'll reference it either as Alamo Square for the more highbrow people or Western Addition for the old timers. At Fulton Street, you'll arrive at Alamo Square Park. So this is confusing, but see if you can follow along. This park, Alamo Square, was established in the late 1800s and named after this area called Alamo Hill. But then the surrounding Alamo Square neighborhood was established in 1984 and named after Alamo Square Park. Got it? This park is among one of the top 5 tourist attractions in the city for one thing only. This row of Victorians behind me called the Painted Ladies, set against that gorgeous backdrop of the city. And if you're a TV buff, you'll recognize these Painted Ladies from the opening sequence of the hit TV sitcom Full House. You can take a few minutes here just to sit in, relax, and take in the views. As an added bonus, on the other side of the park at Fulton and Scott is the Westerfeld House, which has a very long and colorful history, including being one of the first purported hippie colonies. And this neighborhood is chock full of other historical Victorians. So if you're interested in staying and exploring for a while, I'll include a link down below to some of the more famous ones. When you're done taking in the views, continue west down Fulton for a block until you hit Divisadero. We're now in another formerly Western Addition neighborhood called NoPa, or North of Panhandle, which is a park that-a-way. And fun fact, on a map, it juts out from the side of the Golden Gate Park like the handle of a pan. Much like the other Western Addition neighborhoods, this was an area that was once bustling, then got old, the rents got cheap, then it became gentrified. Like Fillmore, these 6 blocks of Divisadero are chock full of trendy restaurants and shops. Definitely stop into the second location of local hotspot Buy Right Market that carries all sorts of artisanal foodstuffs. This is an awesome little place to swing by for some food gifts. In case you can't make it to the Mission, there's an ice cream counter right here as well. I'd recommend Brenda's Meat and Three for soul food, Bar Crudo for seafood, Suvla for Greek. And the restaurant this area was named after, NoPa, for some contemporary California cuisine. Even after all this time, this restaurant is still super popular, so reservations definitely recommended for either weekend brunch or dinners. The food is always seasonal and the portions are big enough to share. Since we're here a little bit early for dinner, we're gonna head on over to its little sister Nopalito for some late lunch. This restaurant is headed up by executive chef and co-owner Gonzalo Guzman, who used to be a sous chef over at NoPa. And his Mexican cuisine, which he used to cook there for the staff, was so outstanding that NoPa's owner, Lawrence Giselle, had him open up this second restaurant. Guzman takes traditional Mexican cuisine and elevates it with fresh, organic, seasonal ingredients. So what's recommended to get here are the taco de carnitas, which is a pork braised in beer, and it's got a little bit of the Mexican cinnamon to it. This soup here is also really good, but it's ginormous, so be prepared to split it if you order it. And then anything with their mole sauce, which is a savory chocolate sauce, like this enchilada de mole con pollo. The prices here are also pretty reasonable for lunch. I'm actually gonna go a little bit light and get the tamal de birria de pollo, which is essentially a beer braised chicken tamale. A tamale is very similar in preparation to like a steamed dumpling. Usually the outside is some sort of a leaf, like a corn husk or a banana leaf. In this case, it's a banana leaf. Then they coat it with some masa and stuff it on the inside with meat. This one has a delicious tomato sauce that's seasoned with dried chilies, spices, Mexican chocolate, and then it's sprinkled on the top with some sesame seeds and some raw onions. You also get a free dish of healthy roasted chickpeas instead of the usual chips and salsa, and I ordered a fresh ginger lemonade to wash it all down. Delightful. The masa is so soft and melts in your mouth. The chicken is super tender and it goes really, really well with this sauce. It's surprisingly light but still very flavorful with hints of spiciness that are pretty forward on the tongue. Delicious. I'm ready to continue my tour. That was muy rico. Next stop, we're gonna take a stroll through Haight Ashbury, or the Haight, for the afternoon. Okay, we're gonna continue south down Broderick for 2 blocks until we hit Haight Street. This famous neighborhood is the birthplace of the 60s countercultural revolution, the location of the '67 Summer of Love Festival, and also home to still some of the most OG hippies around San Francisco. Anti-corporate, anti-tech, anti-hipster, and champion of rent control and the working class man. The next mile of Haight has some really interesting shopping, and you can easily spend hours here just browsing. This super famous corner of Haight and Ashbury is not only the namesake for this neighborhood, but also where the Summer of Love gathered. I should mention for historical context that the Grateful Dead lived right off of Haight and Ashbury and used to hang out daily along this stretch of Haight. Okay guys, I love Ben & Jerry's, but this is not San Francisco ice cream. Not sure where to go? Here's some suggestions. Definitely hit Amoeba Music, the last independent brick and mortar music store here in the city. They've got all the classics, including vintage records, video cassettes, and CDs. The street has an amazing assortment of vintage and resale. I would recommend Wasteland if that's your jam. Or held over for more tongue-in-cheek, playful wear. Once you're done browsing, it's totally worthwhile to stroll through the neighborhoods behind the Haight and check out the very unique Victorians here. Some of the greatest rock bands from the 60s used to live here. The aforementioned Grateful Dead lived here at 710 Ashbury. Janis Joplin purportedly lived here at 635 Ashbury. And right here at 122 Lion, across the street from the Panhandle, if you're up for a walk. Apartment A here at 1524 Haight is where the legendary Jimi Hendrix used to live. We've now reached the end of our adventure, and in the words of the great Grateful Dead, any which way you are tempted to roam, it's a long, 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 long way to go home. It's time for this tired gal to go home. Peace out.